Hello, Namaste. I welcome you all to the 93rd session of Gurubodha. I cordially welcome all the students to this session, and on behalf of us, all of us, I cordially welcome Dr. M.B. Guraja sir to this session. Good evening and namaste, sir. And I also cordially welcome Dr. Raghuram sir to this session. Good evening, Raghuram sir. This session is brought to you by easyayurveda.com. I dedicate this and all of my works at the holy feet of Dr. H. Chandrasekhar Udupa. This class is made live for Easy Ayurveda weekly class subscribers. Dr. Guraja sir runs Develop Pentacare Ayurveda Center in Shumoga. Consult him, please visit easyayurveda.com/gururaja. Dr. Raghuram sir is Chief Content Officer at easyayurveda.com. To consult him, please visit easyayurveda.com/raghuram. So coming to the topics of the day, let's begin with one of the good news. This Delhi NCR in CGHS in a government-run Ayurvedic hospital, Pensioners Paradise are the new Ayurveda centers. Panchakarma is the bus. Ayush Day Care private therapy centers for central government employees and pensioners have been started. So this is private therapy centers, but the central government employees and pensioners have access to it. They usually have some sort of a insurance attached, or they have their ID cards with them. So with those ID cards, they can go, government employees can go to these centers and get the treatment there in private therapy centers, but the fees will be reimbursed by the concerned government authorities in which the employees are working. 8 new Ayurveda yoga centers now serve central government employees, their families, pensioners, and CGHS card holders in Delhi NCR in a new Ayush push by the government of India, central government of India. Ayush daycare facilities made a quiet entry into Delhi NCR in 2020 as part of pilot project under CGHS for central government employees. So first they rolled out this program to central government employees, and slowly it is extended to their families, pensioners, and CGHS card holders. And it started with daycare, and if I'm not wrong, even admissions are possible now as well in private therapy centers. In 2023-24 budget related to Ayush, the Ministry of Ayush, which is created by this Modi government, they increased the budget allocation to 20%. Increased by 20%. Now it is at 3,647 crores, which comes to roughly around $500 million, just a little under $500 million, with an emphasis on promoting evidence-based research in Ayush systems to Ayush Research Council. And most of them are pensioners or 60 years of age. Usually people who live in their pension need some support, and government of India has come up to provide such support. The scheme allows them to get free treatment for 14 days, which also makes sense because beyond that, these therapy centers offer panchakarma therapies. I believe it is just outpatient basis, not admission basis. So it is meant to help the local community who can walk in for panchakarma and other things. But it is limited to 14 days. So much only government can do. And it is all in all a good step forward. About 20 lakh people in Delhi NCR can now turn to these centers if they get a referral. This includes 6,21,000 CGHS cardholders, 19 lakh central government employees and their immediate family, and 5.5 lakhs of pensioners. So let me bring in Guraja sir here. Very good initiative, a sort of a public, private, and government partnership model for the welfare of Ayurveda, and more importantly, for the welfare of elderly people.
Definitely, it's a good initiative, no doubt. And present government is giving all sort of necessary required, and it is a deficit. These pushes were earlier the present government, and it is our duty, those who remain, our research and establish the facts and bring about the evidences. And of course, definitely these type of activities and those pensioners and those age group and family members, usually of those elderly age group will suffer from because of the life expectancy is comparatively increased. Based on that, there will be a lot of arthritis and degenerative changes, and their problems will be there. And if they attend the Ayush or Panchakarma treatment therapy centers, which are reimbursement based and that will be taken care of by the pensioners fund or the government, then definitely there will be much more takers. And once this much more takers come into play, automatically the scope increases and the evidences created will also increase further, and gives a lot of inputs for research as well as the outcomes and to establish the fact of Ayurveda in the lines of science. But there are naysayers for even for this. There may be even somebody may put a case in the court saying that it is a waste of taxpayers' money and all those things. So such type of nuts are also there in this society. Hope for the best. Things will be get much utilized by the people who are needy of these services. Definitely, it will be a new vista for the development, and I appreciate the government move in this, and definitely I will foresee a lot of changes will be there in that.
And I also seen that in some state level governments, such as in Andhra Pradesh, I came to know that the government employees can take up Ayurvedic treatments in select private institutes. So the ward center started in 2020 is taken up by other state level governments also. And Raghuram said it is a very good move, so that so those centers are to be NABH certified, means they should have a minimum standard and fire safety measures and waste management. So there's a criteria for that. So all those things have to be met, and in those centers, well accredited with all the safety protocols and all, government is giving a certification, and those are enrolled. This also encourages all the private players to apply for these certificates, which again leads to upliftment of quality of Ayurveda treatment and standardization.
Yes, sir. A very good initiative, as Gurubodha sir and you rightly pointed out, from the government. Very good initiative. It needs to start up in Delhi. I think if it also spreads over to the other states, other capital cities, mainly focusing on the capital cities initially, later spreading. So the awareness need to be created among the people. People should know. And as far as private hospitals are concerned, they will be like enlightened, and they will be thrilled to see this announcement. And as you said, many hospitals, if they want to establish, they are looking towards standardizing their hospitals according to NABH standards, and making the hospitals a very good a service-oriented thing. That is also a good sign. So private hospitals definitely will look into this to get associated with the government policies and also whatever has been stated here. And this is a positive move, a strong move, and a very good budget also has been allocated for this particular purpose. I see it working wonderfully. If it is taken as a model in Delhi, and later if it is implemented in other cities, I think it will be a great game changer, not only for Ayurveda private sectors like private hospitals and the other this one. So many people also will be benefited. See who are the target people here. The pensioners, the retired people. We speak about, that covers 1/8 of Ashtanga Ayurveda. So when we are speaking about Rasayana, we are speaking about what? So we are speaking about the geriatrics, also a main part of that. So the preventive treatment also as a part of that. So by the time the people get retired, so we are seeing around 60 years of people are permitted to go and take the treatment, or that is the criteria. For 14 days, again, is a game changer. Free treatment, yes, within 14 days, many things. A thorough case history of the pensioners and also the old aged people, the senior citizens shall be taken, and their problems shall be identified, and according to that, the problems shall be addressed. The existing problem and the problems, health issues which they may get in the future, they also can be addressed, like rightly mentioned, arthritis and also degenerative disorders and many disorders, maybe stress, even retirement. And retirement is also, the vanaprastha is a deviation in life of an individual. It becomes very difficult because from being busy, the people come to becoming less busy, and probably they'll start missing that particular. So not all. So there is also a voluntary retire system. So people are also taking a voluntary retirement to get indulged in different activities of what they would have liked to do in the previous past, reserving and preserving a few years to do whatever their soul, their senses and their heart permits them to do. So that is yet another thing. And many people might miss that particular professional careers, or from whichever work they are taking their retirement. So that vanaprastha is a deviation. So again, the body needs to be adapted to those changes, the transition phase, the mind needs to be adapted, sensually they need to get adapted. So it's a different type of stress, like positive stress, negative stress, everything will be mixed up. Suddenly people get up one fine morning and they realize they're not going to the work from tomorrow or from today, and that is difficult to adjust what needs to do and all those things. This is a time where people needs to focus on their health. Ayurveda is there, awareness is there. Government is doing wonderful job by bringing such programs for the retired people. So this is one neglected mass, I feel, Dr. Hebar, like old age people. So as we have also been creating awareness, no, take care of the elders, take care of the senior citizens. So those people either don't bring their problems to the notice of the next generation, or they will adjust with whatever they have. And some people will be so much aware that they're looking for some remedies. Okay, now that we have got free time after the retirement, so let us totally focus on what health issues we have. And this is an opportunity for all such people to visit Ayurveda centers, to know what is Ayurveda, to explore Ayurveda, to experience Ayurveda treatments and get their health better, rejuvenated, rebooted, and also enjoy their old age. So that is an important part of the age where you need to be healthy, where you need to play along with your grandkids and be along with your family, kith and kin, have tours, travel around, and do all sorts of things what you have not done, and create new hobbies, and also keep yourself engaged. So that is very important for all that you need: physical, mental, spiritual, all sorts of health. And Ayurveda centers, which are NABH accredited, and also government is also giving so much of support. 14 days free treatment. That is a tasty recipe. Again, people will be attracted towards that. So a lot of things will definitely happen. This thing which has started with a positive note from the government, a bold step, a very important step, very important, underlined, IMPORTANT, underlined. So very important step, a strategic step taken. So again, salutes and big thanks to the government for taking this initiation, for diverting the vision towards that particular mass of people who are often neglected or who often neglect themselves. So this can definitely be a game changer.
And rightly said, sir. And in the article that was published in the print, that article explains many of the elders who experienced the Ayurveda treatment for the first time in their lives, though they are like after retirement. I mean, that also tells something that people were not, though Ayurveda is so so effective, and all, some people would not get a chance in their lives to experience Ayurveda through their lives. And here 60 plus people are, some of them are experiencing Ayurveda for the first time, and they're getting introduced to Ayurveda, and they're feeling the benefits. That print article there explains about few of the anecdotal incidents where some elderly people have shared their experience of Ayurveda for the first time, and how it is releasing their muscle tensions and arthritis pain and all such things. Gururaja sir, please.
Same time, there is one problem was also there earlier. Even though if those elderly people and if the people wish to take the services of these things, the number of institutions which are allotted for them or they could approach was comparatively lesser. When a government gives something as a support, then even the private hospitals or even OPDs can be taken into support of the chain of hospitals where they can avail these services. Then automatically the quality of the service what they get in the private sector will be definitely much more clear. So if it is government gives such an opportunity wherein if people can get these type of facilities very near to their place of residence, then definitely it will going to improve the scope of the Ayurveda, as well as even the improvement will be there even in the field where we can see more and more number of people availing these services.
Rightly said, sir. And moving on to the next topic is, what does Ayurveda recommend to counter effects of excess buttermilk intake causing kapha and pitta rashes? I've seen like people reacting in an allergic manner to curd, but in this case, somebody has written about buttermilk. Guru sir, any inputs on this, please?
Usually, these type of things I have not heard or seen in the Indian scenario, and maybe it is in any Western scenario that may be chances because the cows are entirely different. But still, I have got my own apprehension that what exactly they are telling us a buttermilk, whether it is a diluted curd or it is a really buttermilk, that is a big question mark to me, because diluted curd or a curd has typically a different type of qualities when compared to a buttermilk, which is subjected for manthana. So it is entirely different. And consuming excess of buttermilk causing kapha pitta rashes and establishing that these two buttermilk consumption is leading to kapha pitta rashes is also a big issue. that we need to understand whether really this buttermilk is causing the allergy. If it is so, then same approach what we are doing to reduce this Kapha allergy or rashes or urticaria management or Shita management, same can be employed even here.
Thank you, there, sir. Raghuram, sir, please.
Yeah, so few points to add. So this may be a small mass of people. I too haven't come across buttermilk, the buttermilk related kapha pitta rashes or any allergy. Might be, some people might not be good with the buttermilk. And what exactly is buttermilk, as Guraj sir rightly pointed out, many people have different types of buttermilk, what they know. Just mix curds in water and take it. That may also be a buttermilk. So depending on what exactly it is, we can't tell. So this, if at all, if buttermilk is causing some kapha pitta rashes, it may be a small mass of people. The best thing is nidana parivarjana. So if it is constantly bothering you, if buttermilk is constantly bothering you and keep giving rashes, then your body is not suitable to buttermilk, that buttermilk. So here we can take, go back to the Nidana, definition of Nidana. The definition of Nidana tells it is not only a causative factor, but the causative factor should have the capacity to create a complete story of the disease. Like it needs to initiate and complete a disease process in an individual. So here it becomes a customized concept here. Nidana is anything, the etiological factor according to Ayurveda is anything which has a capacity to produce a disease and its symptom. So the same buttermilk may not be a Nidana for another person. This is customized basis. So one-to-one basis we need to handle. And if such rashes are there, the person needs to avoid that one. And the Shita Pitta line of treatment, Guraj sir rightly said, that is wonderful approach what we can do. And yeah, so Vamana and Virechana will also be, so if there are chronic rashes and so they're not going away, so if they're stubborn, I think we can go with a Vamana or Virechana or Upayata Shodhana, whatever it is there, coming with again Shita Pitta line of treatment. And we also need to see if it is really the buttermilk which is causing that problem, or is it a trigger. So here we need to see both those things. Is it a causative factor or is it a trigger? Or is there any secondary disease inside or a secondary problem inside? Only when you take buttermilk or some milk products, that thing is flaring up and coming on the surface. So the deeper inspection and also the thorough case history will also reveal buttermilk can be a trigger only for that particular person. The best thing is when constantly something is bothering you, why take? Just avoid buttermilk from your dietary protocol, and so that doesn't cost anything, just keeping it away.
Thank you there, sir. And there is a question regarding buttermilk. This one is it. I understand that there are several different types of buttermilk, but not all of them are takra. Is takra specifically half part water plus 1 part of curd blended and butter taken out? I live in the US, and here Ayurveda teachers teach that takra is 4 parts of water blended with 1 part of curd. Guru sir, can you please elaborate a little bit on like how actually to make the traditional buttermilk?
See, very typically, takra is the one which is produced after the manthana. And what exactly we do is when we boil the milk, we'll get the cream. We try to collect the cream and store it separately. And one fine day, if the collected cream is sufficient enough for us, then it is subjected for manthana. Then when it is manthana is done, the navanita or butter gets separated, and once we remove the butter from this, and whatever the left out is takra, and that is having the Ishat Ambar Guna and Kashaya Rasa Pradhana, and it is Lagu Ushna in nature and all these things. And it cannot be just simply a curd is taken and 4 part of water is added and it is churned and made. No, it is that's what I said. It is liquid curd. We can say it cannot be taken as takra technically.
Thank you there, sir. And Abdul Karim sir, can you please put forth your point, please?
Just I want to add one point here regarding the buttermilk actually. Buttermilk has a lot of sodium content actually in buttermilk especially, which is good, not good for the patient, especially who are suffering from the kidney problem, and they must and should be avoid the in kidney elements they avoid using the buttermilk, and especially in the night time during buttermilk should not be consumed especially, and in the cold, in the fever, and especially pollen allergy cases, the buttermilk can be avoided, sir. So maybe in those cases, anywhere the patient has been consumed the buttermilk, they have a chances to be get the rashes on the body, sir. So that one may be the my advice for the patients who are going to take the buttermilk in the those time durations. Thank you.
Yeah, one point to add here, sir, is so when we're speaking about buttermilk, traditionally prepared buttermilk, Gururaja sir has said, I think that is the best pakra what one can consume. And now we are seeing buttermilk packed in tetra packs and also in plastic covers. Though some are coming from good companies, they may have gone through the hammer of testing, all those things, but still the reaction between pakra kept for a pretty long time than the expiry date and it interacting with the plastic and also the Tetra Pak and the other ways in which it is sold. So probably that may also come into the way and produce some allergic reactions. That also need to be taken care of. Home prepared buttermilk is good as long as even that buttermilk is not giving some allergic reaction. Everything will be safe.
Thank you, sir. And another thing could be that this could be like how you explained the market available buttermilk. This could be that the market available buttermilk which has been added with say salt or spices and like cumin, coriander, etc. are added. Probably that could be leading to excessive pitta increase and so on. So next, moving on to the next topic here, we have a very fundamental question on anurasa, and the question is, what's the difference between anurasa and vipaka? Can you share a few examples? Gurudeva sir, please.
Anurasa is any rasa or the taste perception which is perceived after consuming a drug at a later place. For example, when we consume amalaki, fresh amalaki, the very first taste what we experience is amla rasa. If you go on consuming and chewing it, and at the end you will feel madhur rasa. And that is anurasa here in this context. So something which is expressed in a little bit quantity or expressed in a small way or not so openly it is expressed, or which is perceived at the end when the product is consumed or a drug is consumed, and such an entity of taste is character is called as anurasa. And vipaka is entirely at a different level. It is not at the level of mouth. It is at the level of Agni Pradesha, it is stomach. So once it is subjected for digestion, after the completion of the process of digestion, whatever the phase it is there, in that what is the rasa actually has happened. And that is considered as vipaka. For example, Pippali. Pippali is having katu rasa, but once it is subjected for pachana and ultimately when the paka is completed, then its vipaka is madura. Similarly, patola. Patola is bitter to taste in the beginning. The rasa is tikta. But once it gets digested and the vipaka becomes madura. Even in case of Shunti, it is katu in the beginning and it's the taste, but once it is subjected for vipaka, then it becomes madura. So there are such plenty of drugs are there. They tend to be fall under the category of vichitra pratyarabdada, and such drugs usually have this type of typical variations. And otherwise, generally, any anurasa is which is felt at the level of tongue, but vipaka is entirely at a different place, and the effect of anurasa is and rasa is on the whole body, but not on the manasika one, but whereas vipaka is straight away on the whole body, but the sudden effect or its effect on the mind will not be there. So it is the sharira manasa prabhava will not be initiated with the help of vipaka. It can be happened only because of the rasa and anurasa.
Thank you there, sir. And attached to that, there is another question that can stomach ulcer patients consume Shunti and or Pippali, the ginger or long pepper, as they are mother vipaka to get relief from sinus allergies or cold or cough symptoms. Even with say something like a hinguvastaka churna also, in which case of acid peptic disorder or amla pitta we are using some thought needs to be put in there. If it is pitta pradhana amla pitta with severe vidaha, burning sensation and all, I've seen people taking ginger or Pippali, maybe say trikatu together, maybe maricha is acting differently there, observing some burning sensation and they cannot continue the medicine. So Guru sir, can you please throw some light on this?
Definitely, even the patients of stomach ulcer, they can take Shunti and Pippali, but of course, provided in typical doses. Chakradatta explains the Pippali churna given even in amla pitta. It reduces the amla pitta, he says. So there is as such, there is no problem for using Shunti and Pippali even in case of gastric ulcers or patients with the gastritis. But the only thing is quantity should not be much higher, because it also has ushnata in other things which is present in that, which may also come into play later. So quantity is one of the important criteria we need to understand here.
So, in other words, you would say that in the case of say sinus allergies, cold cough, etc., ginger and pippali can be given despite the patient having stomach ulcers, sir?
See, when there is a sinus allergies or something like that, I may even go for some other drugs. But here the situation what explained is that they are disposed of, I mean, they are at their level. They got only Shunti and Pippali, and people wants to use it. But only problem is that when the patient has a gastric ulcer, can it be used? So with very specific to this context, I am saying that yes, it can be used. If it is entirely other than that, then we have got, for allergies, we have got something different. We have got Haridra is there, we got even Dashamula is there, many other things are there. And even if it is allergy, then we have got Vidanga is there, and Shirisha is there. There are plenty of other drugs we can use it, but with the reference to the context what we are speaking, with the question that stomach ulcer patient can use Shunti or Pippali, rid of sinus allergies. Yes, there is no problem for using those things in sinus allergy and cold. But the only thing is, have a control on the dose. So dose, if it is becomes more, then there may be something irritation may cause just because of the Ushna Guna thing. Even though it is Madhura Vipaka, it doesn't mean that all the drug action will be caused by the Madhura Vipaka only. There are certain actions caused by Madhura Vipaka, certain actions are by Ushna Virya and even by Ushna Guna, and as well as by katu rasa. So everything will have its own play, but all the actions which are produced due to its vipaka, wherein it is madhura vipaka, that gives you support. Care should be taken even while using that, because this is which is the pratyarabdha dravyas, all of them having a capability to produce their own actions. So it is better, it can be avoided, avoid it. But you have only at your disposal only Shunti and Pippali, and you want to give it in allergy, yes, but there is no taboo for that, you can use it. But have a control on the dose.
Thank you there, sir. And
Coming to Shunti, I would like to add one thing, Dr. Prabhar. So there are some studies which suggest that GRAE, capital GRAE, all caps, ginger rhizome aqueous extract, what we can compare it to sattva also in Ayurveda. So it is safe in ulcer conditions and also peptic ulcers and gastritis conditions. It can be used. So those having the cold and other related symptoms, as you mentioned, and also has ulcers, can go to these preparations, these form of preparations, as Gurubodha sir rightly pointed out. If Pippali and Shunti are the lone options, so there are plenty of options which are remedy for cold and allergy conditions other than Shunti and Pippali. So if they are suffering from ulcer at the same time having cold and these conditions, we can step in for alternate medicines only. So, but again, as Gurubodha sir rightly pointed out, these are the only two options which are available in the shelf and which needs to be used. So intellectually they can be used. Ksheerapaka, if again Ksheera can be tolerated, or mixing it with Gruta or in the Gruta form, Pippali, which is an ingredient in the Gruta, or Shunti, which is an ingredient in the Gruta, that form also can be consumed, which also will be soothing. So again, we need to see what type of ulcer and what is the gradient of the ulcer and all those things. So if there are better options, better to avoid Tikshna Dravyas and also Ushna Katu Dravyas like Shunti and Pippali. So if there are other options.
If it is my disposal, then I would have gone for the better drug which can handle both cold and allergy as well as the ulcer. That will be Yastimadhu.
this is like a typical student mistake of pinning the medicine first and then trying to adjust with the disease at hand. Is salt and curd considered viruddha ahara? Someone who is a Raja Dikshit follower mentioned it. I checked. We have covered the wrong food combinations mentioned in Charaka and Ashtanga Hridayam in our article, and I did not find curd and salt in particular to be a wrong combination. Gurubodha sir, please.
It is not a wrong combination. It is a household practices everyone will do. It's not a wrong combination, mixing a salt and curd. And nowhere it is Ayurveda said that you should not mix a salt and curd. Very allowed for even adding Krishna Lavana as well as even the rock salt and even the pepper, Rikatu Churna. These things are allowed with the curd.
And also another point is that either it should be like backed with hardcore data like coming from the Samhitas, or it should be backed with like hardcore scientific data that it's many clinical research, many experimental research, everything has been done and it has been well established, and that theory is proven beyond doubt. Only then can we believe in such statements rather than going with someone's personal opinions. And there is another interesting question. Would buttermilk made with goat milk be better than cow's milk for those that cannot take cow's buttermilk? What's the difference between chach and lassi? Is one better than the other?
Definitely, first choice as per Ayurveda, it is cow's milk and the takra or the buttermilk produced out of cow's milk. If person is not habituated to cow's milk or maybe not available of cow's milk or cow's buttermilk, then the next choice would be goat milk if he is habituated or he can have ability to consume it. But typically, the quality is explained in Samhitas for the takra, which is for the takra of the cow milk. So it is produced out of the cow milk. So our first priority and the choice would be for the cow milk, buttermilk. Otherwise, when it is not available, then we can go for the other thing. For example, even in the case of ascites, Samhitas say about using of ushtri dugdha, camel's milk. But camel milk is not available everywhere. Then in that, as a second alternative, we go for cow's milk. Similarly, the chach and the lassi, definitely, these two are entirely different. That's what I said. Lassi is nothing but a very thick curd being churned and made into such a thick liquid, whereas chach is entirely devoid of butter and its qualities will be entirely different. And chach will be lagu, and whereas the lassi is guru in nature. And if it is more kapavardaka, lassi, so the better one would be always, it is said that for the human beings, the takra is considered as amruta. It is said, how like it is a sura for the suras or devatas, takra is for the human beings. It is so good to the humans. So, but takra should be prepared in the way it should be prepared. It should not be diluted in any sense.
Next, there is a question on fresh ginger versus dry ginger. Guru sir, can you please go ahead with the difference between?
Definitely, fresh ginger is a must avoid in case of stomach ulcer. Fresh ginger must avoid in stomach ulcer, whereas dry ginger can be used because basic thing, fresh ginger is having katu vipaka and dry ginger is having madhura vipaka. Because of that difference, you can use it.
Is colitis patients should avoid katu amla vipaka? In that case, could you please mention few madhura vipaka herbs which can be helpful in colitis? Before we get into the medicine part, I request Raghuram sir to explain in brief regarding colitis and its brief pathology and dosha involvement there. Raghuram sir, please.
Basically, when we look at colitis, it's an inflammatory condition of the colon. Basically, the pitta will be involved in this condition. When we see it's a colon and the pitta involvement, pitta is not natural. Pitta is not a natural inhabitant of colon. So it has come from somewhere. So like vata has pulled. So vata has a capacity to push and pull the things in the body. Other things, pitta, kapha, everything are pangu, we call it as. They cannot move on their own. So upper zone of the body belongs to kapha, middle zone belongs to pitta, and the lower zone belongs to vata. So vata is doing all the mischief, and also along with its good terms. So whenever it is disturbed, whenever it is aggravated and it is out of balance, it can play with pitta, kapha, everything. It can push them to different places. So here we have a concept called as ashaya apakarsha. Ashaya apakarsha is the pitta is silently sitting. So like a mischievous student disturbing a silent student in the class. Both are sitting side by side. A mischievous student and a silent student. They're sitting side by side. So the mischievous student does some mischief. By the time the teacher sees, the silent student is responding to that. And the teacher thinks that this person is responding. That is why this person is the culprit and throws this good student or a silent student out of the classroom. So this exactly happens in the body in conditions like colitis, or when we have severe burning sensation in the urination or the defecation or during menstruation. So what is happening is there is a lot of pitta which is being pulled down. What type of pitta? The pitta which is sitting silently in its place, not doing anything. Such pitta is disturbed, shaken and pulled by vata, abnormal vata, into its zone, into its own zone. So it can push it to any other zone, but it pulls it down to its zone. So when this pitta comes into the vata territory, like colon belongs to the vata territory, pakvadanam visheshataha. So when we tell the pakwashaya or the colon is the chief site of vata. So when vata itself being mischievous pulls a normally situated pitta from the middle part of the body into its zone, that pitta doesn't know what to do because it has come into an alien territory or a zone which doesn't belong to it naturally. So such pitta starts disturbing and hurting the mucosa and producing some inflammatory changes therein. So such pathology or pathophysiology what takes place in the body is called as Ashayapakarsha, and this condition can lead to colitis. And along with that, colitis is a condition which has been explained. Colitis-like symptoms have been explained in the context of Grahani, in the context of Atisara, and many other conditions also. Symptomatically seeing, we can go with the approach of controlling Vata. Very importantly here is to control Vata if it is of Ashayapakarsha condition where Vata is too mischief. So in such conditions, I think it will be better dealt with. So otherwise, if it is not Ashayapakarsha, it totally goes to the physician, what condition the physician is diagnosing that to be. So whether it is Ashayapakarsha or Agrahani or Arsha or Atisara or Raktatisara, whatever it is there. So colitis and also the inflammatory bowel disease comes into so many patterns explained in Ayurveda. Diagnosing those conditions, that if the treatment is given according to that particular pattern, keeping Vata in view, I think Vata and Pitta in view. So I think so things will be dealt with. And very importantly, we shouldn't miss out Kapha, which is a buffer, so which provides buffer in these zones. And whether there is Kapha disturbance also, that needs to be seen. The Tridosha interrelationship with their personal relationships in such conditions need to be seen. Most times the culprit will be Vata and the victim will be Pitta. So silently sitting Pitta will be disturbed and pulled along to the different zones. So I see colitis in this particular perspective. And also the treatment approach depends on what exact pathology or what exact diagnosis the physician has made. Even if there is a wrong diagnosis and if something happens, Upashaya and Ukashaya is for our health. So the plan B should always be ready if doctor doesn't understand what exactly is happening. Use some remedies which specify the doshas, specify the symptoms in such conditions. If it doesn't happen, it's okay. If it triggers and worsens, then the diagnosis is probably wrong. Immediately switch over to plan B. We should have plan B so as to what is happening. So I think this is how we can understand colitis and its approach through Ayurveda.
Thank you, Raghuram sir. Guraj, please.
See, whenever we call it as a colitis, it is a definitely from the other signs what we are taking as a diagnosis. So there is a method of identifying this and making a diagnosis, and we have got a lot of other way of identifying it. So in case of inflammatory bowel disease or colitis or ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease or whatever it is, all along the colon, it may be definitely a bigger colon or even small intestines. This may be having associated with vranas. All through that there will be vranas, and vrana, if it is there, of course it is due to the, as Dr. Raghuram sir has said very clearly, it is due to the involvement of pitta. But if you observe this in the treatment protocol of these conditions, it may be grahani or it may be even the ulcerative colitis or it may be Crohn's disease or anything like that. In these conditions, whenever there is a disturbance in the digestion and whenever there is a vrana associated, the person is passing stools of different nature. It is not well formed, associated with mucus or even sometimes with the blood, and there is a lot of pain and trouble, and he will be losing his body weight, and so many such problems will be there. So in that, the important one which supports these conditions is Kashaya Rasa. Kashaya Rasa dravyas are very, very important in this. You just observe that whenever there is such things are there, Kashaya Rasa dravyas are given because they are a sangrahini in nature. Kashaya Rasa will help bring the two ends of the ulcers together to heal. So it is stambhaka in nature. It reduces the oozing, and it is having shita guna, and it is again is given to the pitta. So in all these nature, it is most suited is the kashaya. That's why you observe that takrarishta or takra is one of the important drug of choice in these conditions. Musta is one of the important drug of choice in these conditions. Utaja is one of the important drug. Bilva is another drug. So if you observe all these things, typically it is Shaya, then followed by Tikta Rasa Dravyas are very good in the management of this colitis condition. Typically, katu and amla vipaka dravyas should be avoided, but takra also has little bit of amlata in it, but it should be fresh takra should be used for this condition. Otherwise, it may be takra which is more sore in nature, then it becomes a counterproductive. So that needs to be taken care of.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yeah, Kasha and Pittars are both balanced down Pitta dosha, and hence you will hear also. And there is a question which Gura sir has already answered many times. How should Yastimadhu be taken in stomach ulcer and allergic condition? Gura sir, please.
Usually, Yastimadhu churna is taken with honey, or even it can be taken as a vipaka. That can also be taken. But if a person is having cold-natured allergy, sneezing and all those things, and not comfortable with the dugdha or the milk, then he can go for mixing the mixing the Yastimadhu churna in honey. He can consume it. Otherwise, it was Yastimadhu Kshirapaka, which is the most suitable, and that too is taken a little bit warm. When it is a little bit warm, then it will not going to increase the allergy, and as well as it also gives a soothing effect on the stomach ulcer.
Okay, for preparing takra, sorry, it is not clear. Is it from the cream of the milk or cream of the curd that is used to churn by adding water to get takra?
There are two methods. The one is daily. You see, if you are in your home, if you are consuming 3 liters, 5 liters, or 6 liters per day, then you could get a sufficient quantity of cream in one day itself. Otherwise, a home where you are consuming only 1 liter or 2 liters per day. So whatever the cream you collected, you just when you boil it and collect the cream and put it in one vessel, keep it in the fridge or something like that to preserve it. That can be taken directly and then churned, and that also yields you the buttermilk as well as the butter. The other thing is that without removing the cream, when you boil the milk, just use the milk as it is, then make the curdling of that milk, then that milk itself is churned, that curd itself is churned, that also gives you the buttermilk as well as the butter. So both ways can be done. But usually the home practices where those who consume 1 or 2 liters of milk per day, they'll keep the milk cream of up to 5 days or 6 days. Then they'll use it and take it out the butter to get the buttermilk. Otherwise, you can do it everyday purposes in that fashion when you curdle it, and you can go for the churning, and it will give you sufficient quantity of buttermilk. But what the butter you get, that may be lesser.
But I don't know if this question is from India or from the US. But if it's in the US and if it's a regular store-bought milk, which is not homogenized, when you boil the milk, you don't get any cream on the top. And the same when you make curd out of it, you wouldn't get any cream on the top. It's all going to be even from the top to the bottom. So ideally, if you want to make buttermilk, you will have to get the non-homogenized milk. That way, when you boil it, you would get the cream on the top. Or when you make curd out of it, you can remove the cream from the top and even make buttermilk.
Is full cream milk not available in the US?
Yeah, even the full cream milk is homogenized. So however you boil it, you won't get a separate cream on the top. It would be milk from the top to the bottom. It will be entirely the same.
Somebody from US has written full cream milk is available in the US. But what Jay Raghuji is telling here is that though you boil it, you do not get the cream separated so that it can be stored for some time.
Yeah, you cannot really remove any cream out of it if it is like a regular, the big store bought milks. Even if it's organic milk, you will not get much cream out of it on the top. Only if you get non-homogenized milk will you get the cream on the top. Otherwise, you will not get. Even the whole milk, if you get the regular milk, you will not get cream on the top.
Guru sir, in that case, then taking the milk, whatever is available, then curdling it and then separate the butter and watery part can be considered as takra, right?
See, once the cream is out of the milk, then there is no question of getting the butter. It's whatever the things are there, it is only just a process involved, but it won't give you the thing. Takra, what the technically Ayurveda speaks about, are the buttermilk. So it is always whatever we talk from the perspective of Ayurveda, it is the human intervention in these things will not be there, because this pasteurized or homogenized milk, all these things and multiple varieties of milk available nowadays, it is due to the intervention of the humans. Otherwise, the naturally occurring the milk is cow milk or whatever the milk we available, it is taken from the farm or the fields, and that will be definitely, if you boil it, definitely it will yield the separation of cream. And if homogenized milk, if it is there, then definitely it is a concern. It may not give you the much sufficient separation of these layers of cream and milk. That is I think that the problem is there in that. But in India, we don't find such issues. We usually get it from the regular, even 3% fat present in that. That also gives you sufficient cream when it's boiled?
Yes, Jai Ruguji, please.
Out of personal experience, I've taken the regular store bought and tried to make takra out of it. You cannot make takra even if you make the curd and then try to beat it in a mixer. You will not get the butter out. The butter will not separate. So that is why most people here think that if you add water to curd and then you mix it up, it's takra, because it's really impossible to get any butter out of the homogenized milk. So it is important to get the non-homogenized from the farms, or some bigger stores may carry a specific variety that is totally non-homogenized, and then you can just like how you see in India, when you boil the milk, you will see cream coming on the top. And when you make curd, you can find a thick layer of cream on the top, which you can roll out with a spoon and take it out, which is impossible with the same amount of fat in a homogenized milk.
Yeah, so Guru sir also concurred with that. So if I understood correctly, takra that's made directly out of the cream is different than from the takra made out of the curdled cream. One is fermented and other is not. Wouldn't the action or karma be different? It is similar. I mean, this is there in the case of butter also. There is some author, probably Kayadevan or Bhava Prakasha, has explained Dadita and Shirota or something like that. I'll try to dig regarding that. And he says that out of the two, for preparing ghee, this Dadita is better. I'll try to find out the reference. Guru sir, please.
Yes, definitely. There are many varieties of making ghee and even buttermilk as well as things. But what we use as a practice here is these both varieties we use it. One is curdling them and then churning it. That's what I said. If you want to do with the 2 liters, whatever you take it for per day per house, and from that only you can make buttermilk. But here in that case, you need to go for the curdling of those milk and churn it. Then you will get a sufficient quantity buttermilk, but you won't get the sufficient quantity butter. But here our concern is to get the butter. Then we will collect the cream continuously for 4 to 5 days, 5 days, 6 days. Then we will subject it for churning to get the concentration of getting a butter is more, and that we think of that. That's the way we need to. If we are our interest is to get buttermilk more, then everyday milk we can prepare it. But if our interest is to get more of butter rather than buttermilk, then they will be accumulated or collected over a week, and that will be then subjected for churning.
Thank you, there, sir. And Savna, when I was a kid, the milkman delivered the milk to the door. This is in US, and the cream was at the top of the bottle. Nowadays, you will have a difficult time finding this. And someone else from US has written, raw milk is available in many stores now. So as nature starts healing, people get back to natural ways. And moving forward, is garlic boiled in milk safe to consume during pregnancy? Probably the question is coming from garlic being ushna and highly pitta increasing. Can it be taken during pregnancy? Especially the garlic boiled with milk is mentioned for bloating and udavarta like symptoms which often pregnant mother suffers with. Can this be taken or not? Guraja sir, please.
That depends on type of the pregnancy and whether it's a precious pregnancy or whether it's in the first trimester of pregnancy and all those things. Usually, first trimester pregnancy, there is a chance of abortion and all those things. Then the Ushtaguna should not be increased and it should not be given Tikshna Guna Dravyas like this. See, probably for that purpose only, it is being subjected for boiling in Kshira, because the Kshira has a Snigdha Guna and has a Madhura Rasa. It will suppress the Katu and Tikshnata of garlic, thereby it reduces its activity, but still it maintains its Vatahara nature. So probably for that reason. Once again, the two important factor which comes into play is that when you are giving, better avoid this during the first trimester of pregnancy. Second and third trimester of pregnancy, if it is required, then you can go over for it. But only thing is, once again, the quantity, a very minimal quantity, which is sufficient to produce the desired effect, not to harming the growing fetus. That can be done. If a person is basically a Tikshna person, the person is already having been habituated for abortions, as a repeated abortion, then Putragni or Jatagni type of categories of Yoni Vapats are there, then it is better to avoid it throughout the pregnancy.
I thank all the participants, and on behalf of all of us, my words of gratitude to Guraja sir and Raghuram sir. Thank you very much, sir. Namaste.